Hey everyone, Matt here from Herbal House, and in this video I'm going to walk through setting up your all-new AC Infinity controller. Now these controllers are very impressive. They're going to allow you to automate your fan control system, your lights, and any other equipment that you choose to integrate. Now setting up this controller can be done through the buttons on the interface itself, but in my personal preference, using the app is a really nice way to control the equipment and of course adjust it remotely. So let's get started. First and foremost, we're going to want to install the AC Infinity app on our phone. Now we're working with an Android here, so what we are is in the Play Store, so just at the top search bar, we're going to tap on that, and you're going to just punch in AC Infinity. So find the AC Infinity app, which we've got just here. Now we have actually already installed this, so we're just going to open the app now. On this first screen here, you might actually get prompted for an update if there is one, but we're going to start by adding in our device. So just in the center there, tap Add Device, and we're going to find our equipment. Now, in most cases, you're just going to be working with the smart controller, the very top listing, and we're going to find the correct controller. Now, if we take a look here, we've got a whole bunch of options. Most commonly, it is a Controller 69 Pro, but there is a label on the back side of the controller which will help confirm what controller you are working with. So you'll actually see there's some icons there just on the Controller 69 Pro. We've got the Bluetooth symbol and we've got the Wi-Fi symbol. So that's just going to help indicate the compatibility of this controller. It can be operated via Bluetooth or of course Wi-Fi. So we're just going to tap, we're working with a Controller 69 Pro. And we're going to walk through the prompts. It's asking us to hold the center button on the controller and wait for the Bluetooth icon on the controller to start flashing. So once you've held that down for 5 seconds, just tap Next. And we are now searching for our device. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the controller connected, and we're just in this case going to connect it to Bluetooth as the option here. If you want to connect it to Wi-Fi, we do encourage that, as it means you can access this controller even when you are not at home. But today we're just working with the Bluetooth, which will still give us all the same options. Controller will be connected via Bluetooth only. No problem at all. Confirm. Cool. We are now connected to our device. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got our new device, which is the controller we've just connected. We've got our temperature sensor, which is already plugged into the controller. So we've got a full readout here of the temperature and humidity. Now, of course, you can name this and you can look at the information here, but this is the main menu where you're going to have all of your controllers if you do have more than one. So now let's jump in and actually program this controller. Just tapping on the controller here, we have a firmware update option. Now, I'm not too worried about this. Of course, we do encourage updating your firmware. It is a good thing to do, but in this case, we're not too worried about it, so I'll just tap later. Now, what we're going to do is set up the equipment. So at the top here, let's run through what we're looking at. So we've got an all option, which is going to manage all of the equipment that's plugged into the controller, which is generally not a good idea. Whatever you've got plugged into the controller, you want to program individually. So what you'll see just over here is we've got port 2, which is actually the port which I've plugged, let's say, the fan into. So if you're working with your fan, you might plug it into port 1, port 2, port 3, port 4. It's just going to change this number up here. But just tapping on port 2, we're now managing the fan. So let's look at our options here. If we come down the screen, we've got our temperature, humidity, and VPD value, and of course the current run level of the equipment. It's displaying off, which is perfectly fine because the little menu button just down here is set to off. Now, what you'll do is you tap on that. We've got all of our modes: off, on, auto, VPD, time it on, time it off, cycle, and schedule, which we will cover in a moment. But I'll just run through the basic operation. So if you want your fan off, you can set it to off, and just make sure this little slider down the bottom is actually set all the way to 0 if you don't want your equipment operating. If you want simple operation, you just want to turn the fan on and leave it on at one setting, just tap off to bring up the menu and tap it to on. And from here, you can easily adjust the slider at the bottom to change the speed of whatever equipment it is you've got plugged in, or even on the dial in the center, you can adjust it like so. Nice and easy. So that's real basic operation there with an off and on mode. Now, of course, what we want to do is set this up to run automatically. Now, that's the most important part and really what makes this equipment shine. So what we're going to do is set our values. Now, the important one to pay attention to is just down here on the right. We've got a max value and a min value. So the importance of these values is basically the max value is what the equipment will go to when we've gone past our set point, and the min value is what it will be below our set point. And by set point, I mean temperature set point, whether it's high or low, humidity set point, but let's get into that. So if we just tap the on button to bring up our modes, let's go across to auto. Alrighty, now this is our auto menu here, and if we just scroll down the bottom here, we've got temperature trigger, high, temperature trigger low, and if we keep going, we've also got humidity trigger high and low. Now in most cases, people are simply working with the high temperature trigger, so we can just tap that on. Now that has set itself to 90 degrees, which is incredibly high. We're not too worried about that. Most people are going to be running, I imagine, down around 25 degrees. So you can just tap the minus button there to bring that value down, or you can come up and actually grab the red pin on the dial and swing that around. So what we're going to want to do is set that to, let's say, 24 degrees. So what that means is if our temperature is below 24 degrees, it is going to be running at the minimum value. If it goes above 24 degrees, it's going to run to the maximum value. Now there are some gradual steps which it'll slowly adjust to, but that is the premises of the system. What you now see here is it's displaying 18.8 degrees, which is our current temperature, and there's a little yellow arrow to indicate where that is on the temperature gauge. What we want to do is we want to set our max and our min value. Okay, that's the most important part here. So the funny way of setting that value is back in the menu here. So we want to set our min value, which is currently 0. Now most growers, they want their fan to not stop running. They just want it to slow down when it's below temperature. So let's say you want your min value of the fan to run at, let's say, speed 2 or 3. So to set that value, what we're going to do is we're going to come back over to our menu here, tap the auto button, and we're going to go to off. Okay, now this slider down the bottom for the off menu is actually adjusting the min value. So if I set that to 3, you'll notice our min value has now adjusted to level 3. Nice and easy. Now to set the max value, you're going to go across to the off, tap the off button to change our modes here. We're going to go to on, and this is where we're going to set that to, let's say, level 8, and as you'll notice, it has set itself to level 8 for the max value. Nice and easy. So we're going to just tap back on the on mode. We're going to go back to auto. As you'll see, it's kept our min and our max values. Now you'll see the min is actually highlighted with a little dot here, just indicating that is what it's currently operating at, because we are of course below our set point. Now I'll just show you here. If I just grab this little red pin and we adjust that set point and drop it down below, so what it's going to do is think, oh no, you've overshot your temperature. We need to start adjusting and ramping up our fan speed to our max value, which is of course 8, to try and bring that temperature down. So as you'll see, the fan is now ramping up and the equipment is trying to accommodate that new set point. So I'm just going to set that back up here to 24 degrees. So what it's going to do is register that, okay, no, we're fine. Let's go back to our min value. So it's really easy to adjust those values and dial them in to accommodate your grow space. So a really nice, easy way to set up the high temperature trigger. And in most cases, again, that's what people are going to be working with. It's really easy to adjust that if you want a low temperature trigger or a high humidity trigger or low humidity trigger. High humidity trigger is a good idea as well, but in most cases, again, just that single high temperature trigger works just fine. Okay, so now that we've covered the auto mode, I'll just briefly touch on the other modes and other systems that might be important to your needs. So just touching on the auto mode there, we're going to bring up the menu again. Now we've got VPD, which is vapor pressure deficit. Now this is quite technical, but it's going to allow you to dial in your grow space based off a VPD value. Now it is worth researching the ideal VPD value for your grow space. If you want to go down this road, it is quite technical and can be a little overwhelming for most people, and in which case the auto mode is perfectly fine. Other modes we have is timer to on, so you can time the equipment before it turns itself on. Timer off, again, quite simple. You can set a timer for how long you want the equipment to run for before it turns off. We're not going to worry about those. We do have cycle and schedule. Now cycle and schedule are rather similar, but if you've plugged yourself in a grow light and you're running a grow light, whether it's a Four Seasons or an AC Infinity or any other grow light that is now integrated into this controller, you're going to jump into the schedule option. So let's say just back up here at our port options, we've got our fanlets as port 2. Let's imagine this is no longer a fan, it is now a grow light in port 2. So we're going to set our schedule. So what we've got down here, I'll just turn this off so you can see what we're working with. So we've got a start time and a end time. Now what we're going to do is turn on the start time for the equipment. Now let's say we want our grow light to start at 9 a.m. Nice and easy there. And we want it to end at 9 p.m. Let's just adjust that there. Nice and easy. So our grow light will now start, well, it's cycled to run from 9 a.m., this blue pin, all the way around to 9 p.m. So a 12-hour cycle, let's say. But there is something important to notice here, and that is the max and the min values that we have here. If this is a grow light, you're probably going to want that min value to be 0, because right now, if the equipment was to be off, it's going to basically be running at level 3 on your grow light, or 30%, which is not ideal. So let's just quickly adjust that. So to change our min value, we're just going to tap on the schedule button, go to off again, and bring that down to 0. Now you'll see our min value has dropped to 0. Tap off, go back to schedule. Brilliant. So now when our grow light is scheduled to cycle off, it will actually go to 0 and turn off. When the grow light is scheduled to be on, which it is right now, the max value will go to 8. So we're at 80% on the grow light. Now let's say you actually want to be running your grow light at 50% or 100%. I'll show you that now. Just tap on schedule again, go to the on mode and adjust the slider. So I want my grow light at 50% because let's say I don't need all the intensity. That is set now. Let's tap the on mode and go back to schedule. So as long as you always go back to schedule or auto mode, it will remember those values. The max value is now 5 and the min value is now 0. Nice and easy for automating your grow light. You can, of course, automate grow fan through this if you so need to, but in most cases, you're just going to be running that off the auto mode. So that covers most of the basic options in which you'll be running your equipment through the AC Infinity control scheme. Now, I imagine there will be updates and things in the future which might make this look a little different, but there is a little bit more information that you might want to consider looking into, because this app simply has a lot of features. If we look at the very bottom of the screen, this little icon in the bottom left is where we currently are, which is adjusting the set points for the controller. The icon just next to it, let's just tap on that, is for our automations and alerts. So you can dive a little deeper if you want to set up automations for the equipment to be turning on or off in more complex programming steps. Now, most people, again, probably won't use this, but it is really nice to see that they have this there because you can fine-tune the equipment to your needs. Just over on the tab at the top right, we've got alerts, which is a really nice way to set up an alert which can go to your phone, basically if parameters are exceeded. So if your grow space exceeds a certain set point, you can have it let you know. Same for VPD, humidity, and of course temperature. Really nice features to have. Now, next icon along we've got down here is a graph. Now this is going to load up. This is a relatively fresh controller, so it's not going to have too much information on it, but now we have a full display and what is happening with our controller here. So if I just tap here, it's going to bring up all of the values for that exact time frame. So at 9:38 today, the temperature is 19.1, humidity is 50%, and our VPD, it's obviously giving us a value referencing that. Now VPD is just a reference of temperature and humidity to give us that value, but as you can see, just sliding through here, we can see those values changing as it goes, which is really nice to see. And at the very bottom down here, it's also referencing what the equipment is trying to do at that given time period. So if you see your temperature is getting a little high, but you also notice your fan isn't actually running at full speed, you can easily adjust that to help accommodate it. Just a great bit of information you can get, and of course you can actually see just up the top here, we can set hour, day, week, month, year. You can see all the information you could possibly need. Next icon along, just on the bottom right, is we've got a history log for our alerts. Again, we haven't set any alerts, so we're not going to see anything here, but nice to have, of course, a history log. Just in case you pop away for a while, you want to make sure nothing ever went out of those set parameters. So I hope this video has given you a little more insight into setting up your controller and fine-tuning those points to have your grow space run fully automated off the AC Infinity control system. Of course, if you do run into any problems at all or have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us here at Herbal House. Thanks for watching.